Well, the migrant crisis is about to get even worse, if you can believe it. Since October, there have already been over 730,000 migrant encounters at the border. Right now, a caravan of at least 6,000 people are trudging towards the U.S. The illegal immigrants are demanding help from the Biden administration, making the harrowing trek over Christmas weekend.
The President of the United States must help us, as we are migrants. In reality, some of us only go to the U.S. for 4, 5, 6, 7 years, and then return to our country. For this reason, we demand that Joe Biden help us.
I was used to my Christmas dinner with the family, not spending it in the street as we did yesterday.
First Christmas that we spent away from home and not in the best way as we expected to give the best to our children.
All right, well, make demands, I guess. Sanctuary cities are also feeling the pressure. Almost 4,000 migrants in Denver are overwhelming shelters, with more busloads arriving in the city here in the last few days. Colorado Governor Jared Polis, well, he was blasted for not taking this issue seriously. And instead, he posted this video of himself dancing and laughing.
Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Prospero año y felicidad.
Jessica, nobody loves Jose Feliciano more than I do, even when I say his name wrong. I love the song. He sold more albums than Mariah Carey. I saw him live with our very own Raymond Arroyo last week. But is that how you address this crisis that's happening right in front of us?
I don't think that that is his migrant crisis approach. I think that people are allowed, and yes, it was a little cringy, but they're allowed to post something on social media that has nothing to do with the real problems the city is facing. I understand if it's something that is affecting you personally, that might be aggravating to see. But Jared Polis is a complete success story. He has a 61% approval rating. He's in the top 10 of governors across the country. And he's actually more libertarian than he is Democratic. I'd encourage everyone. He was on with Bill Maher and had a wonderful interview with him about it last year. So I think there's a place for this. Do I wish it had been better coordinated and look less awkward? 100%. But I don't think that it means that he's not serious about the border crisis. And he's spoken out about it, saying you can't not give us federal dollars if you want us to deal with thousands of people that are being shipped here, like Democratic mayors and governors are doing all over the country. So I'm pro-Polis.
I don't know. I got a lot of my neighbors are from Denver, and they couldn't get out of there quick enough a couple of years ago. So I don't know. Maybe he is doing a better job. Doctor, if we just want to go by the numbers, because you know numbers better than any of us. Okay, there's as many as 10,000 migrants arrested per day at the southwest border in the last week. So on top of that, there are 10,000 a day seeking asylum just coming in through Eagle Pass. It's hard to put our finger on the total number because the got-away number is a prediction or a guesstimation, but the numbers are unlike anything we've ever seen before. Our economy isn't doing all that well right now. Is this not, I mean, it's almost malpractice on behalf of the administration if they want to take care of these people.
Well, so first of all, we don't know the number of the gotaways, but the number we do know is the 2022-2023 fiscal years, over 2 million migrants did cross the southwest border. That's not even counting the people who have come in from our northern border. 250,000 just came in last month alone. And as we're talking about Denver, they just had 16 busloads of migrants being dropped off on their doorstep. I do think that the video, I think it was really bad timing. It was very cringeworthy. That gets added to, Jill Biden's taco comments, President Biden saying, well, you ain't black if you aren't for me. I mean, they are just so thirsty for this black-brown vote, and they are starting to see all of a sudden you are having more support for President Trump. The polls are showing when it comes to Hispanic, Latino, and black voters, and the reason is because of how they're handling the border and because of their economic policies, and people are hurting at home.
I agree with you. I come from a town that's 78% Hispanic right now, inside the city limits. I was talking about it this morning on Fox and Friends. I kind of had this epiphanal moment sitting there. It's like, you know what? They're my people. The people that came to Dalton, Georgia from mainly Mexico in the 90s and 2000s are a part of my family. They're the people I went to school with for 13, 14 years. They're best friends. They're first-generation Americans. Some are dreamers. And they say to me, my parents and grandparents weren't what this is. They weren't coming here this way. They weren't coming here from even those countries. And they weren't coming here to do what those people were doing, which was to complain about not getting enough from America. And so, Tom, when we look at these caravans and we look at the situation coming through Mexico, not from Mexico, it is the Kamala Harris approach of, go find the root of the problem, that I guess this problem has no roots. Is that the only thing we can do?
Yeah, and you're talking about your people. If you talk to Hispanics, talk to people, blue-collar workers up in Westchester who are out there doing landscaping, guys who are working as contractors. They've been here for years and years. They don't like what's going on. They see the flood that's happening, and they worked hard to get the jobs that they have, and now they see these migrants coming in. So they have the same attitude about it as America's blue-collar workers do. And I think these cities, the sanctuary cities, I am sick of this act like that Mayor Adams is putting on and these other guys. Mayor Adams saying, oh, they got to do something. We're getting flooded here. And then the headline is, oh, Mayor Adams is really mad about the Democrats' policies and he wants something done. He just wants money, all right? They are sanctuary cities. They invited these people here. Now they want to petition the government for money. And this is part of a two-part scam. I say this all the time. The idea, if you have a street scam, you have one guy running the scam and then you have somebody else who's kind of a phantom operator, and they pretend to be taken in by the scam, and they work together. That's Mayor Adams. He's the silent partner in this. He's going to demand money, and then once they put up the money, once Biden gives him the federal money, they're going to federalize the migrant situation. And so that the cities now have a new source of income. The federal government is giving them money for every migrant that comes, and they're going to have more migrants coming here.
Kennedy, a lot of times Democrats roll their eyes at this, what they call the replacement theory, that they want to bring in people of their politics to eventually have the right to vote, or their kids have the right to vote, to change elections. They roll their eyes and say that's conspiracy theory. They call it racist. So what is the mindset of keeping the border wide open? How does that make our country better? What is the truth behind it?
There is an idea that you should let people into the country, especially seasonally, to fill jobs that Americans just won't. And people who want to work as hard as people you see in your hometown that have been there for decades. They're some of the hardest working people in this country. So if we had a better immigration system, you could welcome those people in, and if they felt comfortable, then they would leave and go back and provide for their families seasonally or for a couple of years at a time. That's not what is happening. We have such a confusing immigration problem and lack of policy in this country. It is almost impossible to immigrate here legally. So, but what is also interesting is it is kind of racist, because Republicans go, well, we don't really want to talk to these people because they're invading our country. And Democrats go, they're great because they're going to vote for us. But there are Hispanic voters that are peeling off from this president because a lot of them are from Catholic countries. And a lot of them are much more aligned with traditional Republicans who are trying to outline and create a better coalition in their party. So they've been essentially ignored by everybody. And while Kamala Harris says that she's working on those root causes, the problem is absolutely metastasized on her watch. So whatever the root causes were 2 years ago, this whole new thing, whatever they're doing, it is not working. And shame on them, because it hurts people in these border towns. It hurts people in these sanctuary cities. It hurts homeless veterans who can't get the care that they need because resources from the federal government are going to people like the first guy we saw in the video who is demanding something. I'm sorry, but there is an aspect of it that I really have an issue with, and it has gotten worse under this administration.
Listen, if you have respect for hard work, taking care of your family, and the society around you, I really don't care what language you speak, what color your skin is, or where you're from. I want you around. I really do, because there's a lot of Americans that don't have that anymore, but we need to make a way to get them here legally.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.